Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. On the agenda tonight we have Gary Clark Jr, and this is going to be coming from Glastonbury 2016, and he's going to be playing through his track When My Train Pulls In. So let's get Gary up on screen and see how he gets on. I'm just going to quickly jump in, probably the quickest ever that I've done, just to say about tuning up. I've done some videos where people have relied on guitar techs tuning their guitar, and they've gone straight into a track, and lo and behold, they're out of tune, and then it's a bit of a train wreck for 5 minutes. Gary's checked his guitar as soon as they started to make sure he's in tune, and he did it a little bit by ear. Now he's turned on his tuner to make sure he's exactly in tune before he actually starts the track. So it is such a small thing to do, but such a professional thing to do to make sure that you're going to sound good for this 11 minutes, because imagine playing out of tune to a festival crowd for 11 minutes. What a nightmare. So you know already Gary is switched on. He knows exactly what he's doing. So let's have a little skip forward to when the track actually starts and get into some of his playing.
Well, I would leave this town, but I ain't got nowhere else to go now. Wake up in the morning, oh, bad news, and sometimes I feel like I was born to lose, and it's driving me out of my mind. Gonna catch the next train and I move on down the line, yeah.
Just going to jump in here because we've got such a cool bluesy groove going on. Listen to that guitar in the background that's filling in the gaps behind Gary's rhythm work here. Gary's stabbing in the rhythm with a classic E minor 7th chord and classic blues progression here, but that rhythm guitar in the background, because it's got that tremolo effect on it and some chorus, it means that it gets a totally different sound to the dry, straight sound that Gary's got on his guitar. He's got some overdrive on there, but there's no delay, no reverb, and no tremolo, so it really helps to distinguish those two sounds in the mix. Another thing that's got to be mentioned is Gary's voice. It's such a soulful, bluesy voice, and even if he didn't play any lead guitar, you'd say that it's got a great groove and feel to it, and his rhythm work, especially playing and singing at the same time, I always say it doubles the difficulty, and Gary falls into that category of playing riffs at the same time as singing, which is a more difficult way of playing than just strumming out chords. It's a really tight start to this track. Listen out to the bass and the drum, because they're absolutely locked into each other. And by the way, we get a great drum sound here. It's not doused in reverb, but that snare just really sits in there nicely. There's a hint of reverb on that kit, but it sits in so well with that rhythm guitar as well. Overall, just a great sound. So hats off to the guys at Glastonbury. They definitely know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years and just get a great mix all round. But let's get into a little bit more of the track.
Well, I'll be ready now.
So just jumping into that solo, you probably already know what I'm going to say, that vibrato, the control. And that's one of the keys to playing great blues lead guitar, is being able to sit your vibrato in the groove of the track. And that's exactly what Gary's doing here. With up-tempo tracks, you'll find that great blues players then increase the frequency of their vibrato to match the tempo of the track and the groove of the track. And it's one of those subtle things that will fly under the radar, but the top players have absolute control of that vibrato so they can match the groove so that the guitar is singing in the same context as the rest of the band. It's such an important thing to be able to do, but only the best players really nail it. You'll sometimes find when somebody's playing with a slow blues or even in a ballad and they've got a really fast vibrato that's a little bit out of control, it can sometimes just ruin the whole lead section, whereas having this control, it's so great to listen to. And what I love about Gary's playing is the way that he does so much with so little. And what I mean by that is he spends a lot of time in pentatonic shape 1 in this E minor key, which is going to be fret 12 to 15 on your guitar if you know this shape well. So he's got that first finger and third finger, obviously 12 to 14 with the first and the third, but then first and little finger or third finger as he plays it will be on the 15th fret. I don't want to get too technical here, but he stays in that shape, throwing in some really cool bends. Rather than playing the blues scales straight, he just does tiny little bends up and down, and also throws in some natural minor notes or Aeolian mode, however you want to refer to it as. And it really does give a different element to his playing, because he can do, as I said, so much with so little by just dashing in a few notes from different scales, but then coming back to that solid pentatonic work. Some players you'll find that they're all the way up and down the neck, but they never really play anything melodic. And it just goes to show that when you've got great control of vibrato, a great ear for melody, you only need a few notes. You can do so much with the basics. And just having vibrato means you can make any note sing. And the real top players, just give them one shape and say, right, you can only play that shape, and they'll always blow your mind with what they can do with just one standard shape, even from one scale, not even blending those scales together. I've just cued it on a tiny bit just to highlight something about Gary's voice. When you've got someone who's got a great voice like Gary has, you don't need anything, you don't need to dress it up at all. And have a little listen here just to this section, because this is just Gary's voice and a drum beat. There's nothing else in the mix here, so just check this out.
Smiling face was there, stab you in the back as soon as you turn and walk away. And oh Lord, it's bringing me down. If things don't change around here, ain't no use in me hanging around here. Well, I'll be ready now, yeah.
And then we're back into that verse. And an interesting thing that happens is once you've heard the melody of this track and those chords, once you've heard them a few times, when there's nothing here to reference where you are in the track, your brain will fill in the gaps. So even though we start in E minor here, when we then change over to A minor, there's no change going on here. We've got no reference point. But because of the melody of Gary's singing, your brain starts to fill in those gaps, so you still know where you are in the track. And also another thing that your brain will do subconsciously is store the amount of time between turnarounds, so you know exactly how many bars will be going through until you then start the whole progression all over again. And this is one of those things that just happens with time. If you listen to a lot of music, especially blues, you'll start to know where they're going and when the turnaround happens. And I've just cued it forward so we can get into this second lead section, and Gary's got his wah-wah on the go here as well, so let's check this out. This is just one of those videos that I could just sit and watch. I don't want this video to go on for too long, but just to mention a few things to finish with. Again, the amount of time Gary spent just around that 12th fret and 15th fret as well. You don't need to learn loads of different scales to sound great and to emote through your guitar. And sometimes the more you want to play consciously, the less distance you have to cover, because all the notes that you're singing in your head are probably just the next string down or a couple of frets away from where you already are. So sometimes you'll find that the best conscious playing, a lot of players, top blues players, will just stay in that same location because they're getting exactly the notes that they want, that they've currently got going through their head at that particular time, and then they get it down on the fretboard. That rhythm guitar just filling in the gaps all the time. It's such a great sound. Having that clean sound with that tremolo and chorus on there, totally different to Gary's tone. And this is a top tip for a band. If you've got two guitarists in your band and you've both got the same tone, chances are that live it's just going to sound like a bit of a mess, or it's going to sound like one player rather than two individuals that are supplying. You can get so much more dynamic range by having one tone that's heavy and then another tone that is clean. Or if your sound is on the heavy side, just have one guitar that's really doused in overdrive and heavy, and then another guitar with all of that gain, that overdrive just taken off, so that you get a crunchy sound. So then those two guitars together will fill in so much more frequency and give a really full sound, but you'll get the bite from one guitar and then that smooth overdrive sound from the other guitar. But I'm going to put the link to this in the description below so you guys can check out the whole video if you want to. I highly recommend you do, because there's some great stuff going on in this track. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!